So the trial proper for Kim Potter is finally getting started after a laborious jury selection process. We had opening statements this morning, and then that took longer than it really needed to. And then we've so far, because the trial is still going on while I'm recording this. Sorry, but we at least have the first half of the testimony of the second witness that has been up there, and he'll probably complete his interrogation, or rather his testimony in the cross. That'll be after that as well. It'll probably be wrapped up by the end of the day. But it's very interesting so far, and it's the highest profile case that's out there right now that's actually being televised. Like, yeah, obviously the Ghislaine Maxwell trial is going on right now, and I don't give a fuck if I'm mispronouncing her name or not. She's a pedophile, or she's a groomer, or some shit like that. And yeah, there's not a whole lot of like actual tangible evidence to that one. There's a whole lot of he said, she said, maybe they fucked him in the 90s, maybe she got fucked in the 2000s. It's like, I've already made my fucking statement on that, and I've made it clear, and we'll probably touch on that when a verdict's fucking finally handed down, but okay. And then we got the Jussie Smollett one, which I wish was being televised, because that's really just putting the city of Chicago, that entire legal system, on trial. And then also by proxy, the Obama establishment that's just kind of taken over the corruption that's in Chicago. But we'll be touching on that one because it's heading to jury deliberations now. The trial itself is over, and it's in the hands of 12 individuals. Closing arguments happened there today. So now that this one's up and running, we got Kim Potter. And if for those of you who aren't aware of the situation, she is the cop that went taser, 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 and then pulled the trigger once, and then ended up killing Daunte Wright. And she was incredibly inconsolable in some new video that came out during trial today. So we'll get you up to speed on this one, because there's a lot of information that's surrounding it. She's facing two charges right now, manslaughter. Both of these are manslaughter, first degree and second degree. There's very, very high bars that they need to meet. The prosecution team does. The state of Minnesota needs to. It's weird, because if you guys remember, if you were watching along at that time, or if you're aware of the situation, this happened April 11th of this year. Now, I'm trying to remember if this was during jury selection or during the actual trial itself for Derek Chauvin, George Floyd, that entire fucking debacle. It happened miles away from the courthouse, the Sunday right before, I'm pretty sure it's just before everything started to get kicked off. So yeah, okay, that inflamed the situation. I think that's what led to Maxine Waters coming down there saying, we needed the guilty verdict, otherwise we take to the streets. And you know what, a fucking guilty verdict was always going to come out of the Derek Chauvin trial anyways, regardless of the information that was presented at court. Regardless, though, this case, if you're going to be following along too, you're going to notice something, okay? Because the media will probably try to spin it one way as, oh, white female cop shoots young black male, and oh, it was motivated clearly. And it's like, you're not going to hear any of that in trial, just like you didn't hear any sort of race component in the Derek Chauvin trial either, because there's nothing to really do about that. There's nothing really say about that. This trial, if it was, being handled by any other judge that's out there, it should probably be all done and dusted, and it should be in the hands of the jury by about the middle of next week, because realistically, we're all just kind of figuring out what the hell happened over a couple minutes of video evidence. Okay, you got the couple of cops that are out there that day. So you have Kim Potter, who's going to be taking the stand. You have Anthony Lucky, the cop who was under the training that day, as Kim Potter was acting as the field training officer for Anthony Lucky, who is the officer that was there, and he was just giving his testimony, and he's like right now just about halfway through, at least from what I'm watching. He's on the stand right now, and then you have Officer Johnson, who is there. Yes, you have Officer Lucky and Officer Johnson. It literally sounds like one of those fucking precursors to a bachelorette party dance. But regardless, he was there. He was also the one who was on the other side of the vehicle, who was reaching in and trying to prevent Daunte Wright, the man who was shot, and then eventually, it drove not his Buick, okay, because there's some more interesting details from the case came out here today. He ended up getting shot and then driving the vehicle and then crashing it in somewhere else about a block and a half up the road. But Anthony Johnson, I'm not too sure the guy's first name, but Officer Johnson was inside the vehicle, at least hanging inside the vehicle as well. So There's reason to believe, and even if you think that Kim Potter is culpable for, or at least responsible for killing Daunte Wright, she did. I don't think anybody's fucking disputing the fact. All the video evidence is there that, yeah, she pulled a firearm and shot him once, but she mistook it for being a taser. And you know what? Accidents don't create convictions. So this is clearly because Keith Ellison, the Attorney General for Minnesota itself, he has quite a strong hand in this case as well. And this is clearly a political overcharge because this happened right at the time of the Derek Chauvin, George Floyd trial. But let's get to the facts themselves. Enough rambling up front. I shot him. Oh my God, moment. Minnesota cop Kim Potter collapses with her head in her hands after shooting dead Daunte Wright. Well, not really shooting him dead. He was still alive, and he was still driving a little bit before that, before he crashed into something else. So not quite shooting him dead, but eventually it did happen. Never before seen footage is shown to jury at the start of her trial. As prosecutors say, she betrayed her badge and oath. And if you've watched any fucking trial that's been out there, that's the bog standard line. And when it came to the opening statements from the prosecutors from the state of Minnesota themselves, they probably should have picked somebody who has a little bit more court presence, a little bit more charisma to deliver their opening statements, because this bitch was literally fucking reading her notes off of her notepad, checking shit off as she was going down. It was very robotic. It was very, very boring to listen to, but she hit on a bunch of stuff and had really weird outbursts of just energy. It was very, very strange to listen to. As on the other side of the aisle, you had Paul Ang, not the lead counsel, okay, for the defense, but he came out, he had nothing, okay, he just had a bottle of water and a few coughs, and he was very animated, and he laid out his case, and he did a very good opening statement, okay, and I think that, yeah, this is another one of those situations where him and the defense at large have the facts on their side. They have the evidence on their side. It's just this case is going to be a lot more emotion driven, and it's also in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is the bluest fucking state imaginable, and making it an emotional play, well, we've seen how easy that was to make with the George Floyd situation. So all of that aside, now we're finally going to get into the story here. Jurors in the trial of Minnesota former police officer, yeah, she's been fired, by the way, officer, yeah, Kim Potter, were shown the dramatic moment she collapsed on the ground screaming, "I shot him, oh my God." Yeah, nobody's seen that before. All everybody's ever seen is just the first couple of minutes, the interaction where they figured out that Daunte Wright had an outstanding warrant for his arrest, stemming from a gun charge that was previously out there as well, and then also knowing that there was a restraining order, a no contact order that he had with another woman that's out there who I eventually think that we're going to know the name of, who just hasn't been alluded to yet. But yeah, no, he had some interaction with the police, and an outstanding warrant means that on top of the fact that he didn't have a proper driver's license, okay, the vehicle wasn't registered in his name, he didn't have up-to-date or even valid insurance on the vehicle itself, he in no way in hell should have been driving that vehicle. So there was no way they were going to let him go. So he had to, be arrested for, so simply driving away was never going to be in Daunte Wright's future. Well, we all know what was in his future. Unfortunate as that be, because if you would have just went along with the officers, all of this shit would have been done. But also, yeah, if Potter would have pulled her taser, this wouldn't be a trial anyways. But you don't put somebody away, and this is legally, or written down, you don't put somebody away for a fucking accident. Prosecutors played distressing, never-before-seen dash cam footage on April 11th incident that showed how Wright sped off in his car shortly after being shot before coming to a stop where he hits another vehicle. Yeah, they'll pretty much stop you in the middle of the road if you hit somebody else's vehicle. But yeah, no, obviously, they played this video. How's that supposed to help their case? Because they're supposed to be defending, good, wholesome, didn't do nothing boy, Daunte Wright. It's supposed to be helping them, but she immediately shows remorse and regret for her actions, and there was no indication whatsoever. And then even following the training itself, pulling twice on the trigger is what she's trained to do over the 26-year career that she was a police officer. You pull the trigger twice when you're trying to use your firearm, and you only pull it once when you're using a taser. So she only fired once. going to be a bitch to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, obviously, and that's the standard that the prosecution has to overcome. So showing a video footage afterwards of her immediate distress and her mindset, because all of this, a bunch of this case factors on her mindset, her state of mind during that hectic, less than a minute that everything went down. So anyways, back to this. At the same time, the stunned former officer can be heard shouting hysterically, "I just shot him. I grabbed the wrong fucking gun." Immediately after firing her weapon, Potter, 49, claimed that she shot the 20-year-old by accident. Yeah, obviously. When she reached for her gun instead of her taser during a traffic stop. Her defense in the high-profile trial is expected to lean heavily on the fact that Wright was attempting to flee when she did so. And again, does that also lean into the fact that she would have had reasonable cause to shoot him even with a firearm, even if that's what she intended to do? Because, Officer Johnson was hanging inside the vehicle, and then you're also going to see a still from the video itself where you had Anthony Lucky, Officer Lucky as well. He was inside the vehicle, so if Wright was, okay, and again, this is a felony as well, fleeing arrest, so he would have also been dragging two officers from his vehicle while speeding away onto what the prosecutor said in their opening statement was a busy street, so pulling off into a busy street at a high speed, creating a chase situation there. Would she have been in the right to use lethal force in that situation instead of just deferring to non-lethal force? All of these questions will be brought up in the trial. Prosecutor Erin Eldridge, okay, that's her name because she didn't introduce herself. She just walked up and meandered to the podium and then just recited her statements like a robot and read from the page and had a very annoying cadence, which even puts the judge in this case to shame. Anyways, she told the jurors that Potter, who was in the police department in Brooklyn Center, a suburb of Minneapolis, betrayed her badge, her oath, and right when she drew her Glock 9mm and shot him in the chest at point-blank range. Yeah, again, all of these things, you know what, in proper context, just lead you to believe that she was intending to pull her fucking taser. Anyways, got underway Wednesday morning. Yeah, after they spent just about an hour arguing in chambers about the different motions, and then they wasted more time coming out into the courtroom to make a note of it. This fucking trial is taking a lot longer than it needs to just because this judge is, I don't know, camera shy or some shit like that. But yeah, oh my god. If we don't get to it, I've just got to recite the closing fucking remarks of the opening statements of the prosecution. Oh, he was wearing a heartbreaker jacket. And you know what? That day, Kim Potter was the heartbreaker. And then Erin Eldridge literally walked off the fucking podium thinking that she hit a home run. But in actuality, she fucking fouled that pitch directly into her face. Ugh, God, that was fucking annoying and terrible. Eldridge spoke to the trust placed in the police as they perform their duty to duty out on the streets, sorry. The trust, they will not use their weapons rashly or recklessly, and that they will uphold the duty to protect the sanctity of life. Now, was it reckless? Did she empty her clip, all 17 rounds, into Daunte Wright? No. Rashly, he was trying to flee custody, so again, beyond a reasonable doubt. Like, if this was a civil case, which is apparently, you know, that was brought up by the first witness that was up there, Daunte Wright's mother, they're looking at civil charges, okay? And the grounds to convict on a civil case is a preponderance of the evidence, so you can just weigh it and go back and forth, but when it comes to a criminal case, what this is, it is beyond a reasonable doubt. So they're going to have a bitch of a time trying to get to this one. Addressing the jury in calm, steady, monotonous, boring, awful tones, Eldridge said, "We expect them not to betray their badge and to withhold their oath. We trust them to know wrong from right and left from right and up from down and first from second and whatever." And that reference Potter pulling her firearm from her right hip rather than the taser from her left. Yeah, obviously. And then they had a little wonderful pictures also showing you that, yeah, okay, she always kept her taser, and I forgot what year exactly that was, but they had all the way back to 2016. They had different pictures of her. I don't know, she always had her taser on her left hand, and it was just standard draw instead of cross draw, instead of having the handle of the gun forward so that you could just easily pull it. And it's like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. So it wasn't, and again, that just kind of detracts from your claims that she made a reckless decision that day, but the fact that she always had the firearm in the exact same handling, okay, with the handle pointed backwards. She had it in the exact same place for multiple years, okay, and that there was nothing different on that day. There was no negligence really brought, so it was kind of undercutting your own argument there, and I don't know what the fuck you're actually going for. Eldridge reminded the jury that every day Potter put on her duty belt with her gun in the right and her taser on the left. In fact, Eldridge said that she completed further training on her Taser 7 on March 2nd. Yeah, by also saying that she had PowerPoint presentations to follow along to, and that, oh yeah, she had to go through this stuff every year, but... Again, if anybody's ever done like just regular work training, like little modules, it's basically at the end of the fucking training, you just kind of sign off on a box. Okay, you just click all the way through to the end and then you just guess your way through the tests that are out there. It's basically the fucking training that she had to go through. So, yeah, characterizing it like that in your own opening statements, probably shouldn't do that, but hey, that's up to you. That's your fucking decision. I'm not pulling for you guys in this situation. I think that she's an idiot, and I think that she'd be held civilly liable for something, okay? But to meet the high threshold of manslaughter 1 or 2, she doesn't meet it. And I'm going with the law. I always go with the law, okay? I could really give a fuck what happens to her. I just think that she doesn't really meet the standard of the charges that have been placed on her, politically motivated or not. Eldridge reminded the jury that the 26-year-old veteran of the force had been a cop longer than Daunte Wright had been alive. Oh my God, tug on those heartstrings. Well, to be fair, if you don't have the law on your side, talk about the facts. And if you don't have the facts on your side, talk about emotion. If you don't have emotion on your side, well, talk about how good the breakfast was this morning. She painted a picture of Wright, the first son of Katie Bryant and Aubrey Wright, part of a blended family full of love. Yeah, again, just kind of weird, but they might have been a loving family, but they weren't necessarily a smart or law-abiding family. He was the father of a 1-year-old toddler, Daunte Wright Jr., a young man who once dreamed of being a professional basketball player, but God, if it wasn't for just, I don't know, dumping random loads and whores, he just would have been able to, I don't know, I guess pursue that basketball career. But again, when I was growing up, I wanted to be in the NFL. I wanted to be a fucking fire truck when I was young. So again, bringing in all of this character evidence is eventually going to come back and bite you in the ass, because this dude was a criminal and it was fucking documented. So whatever, tread lightly. Instead, he died in a traffic stop that Eldridge presented as routine until Potter did exactly what she had been trained to prevent. Stopping somebody from fleeing and potentially creating another crime scene in the process? Yeah, weird. She told them that Wright had been forthcoming and helpful, answering all the questions he was asked, and presented him as merely a scared kid who panicked on learning and he was going to be arrested when the record check showed that he had an outstanding warrant against him. And then also forgetting to note, and to be fair, this is their opening statement, so they're just trying to present the best case that they can. He never ever had a driver's license, and I'm sure we're going to get to that once we get to the cross-examination of the mother. He never had a driver's license, ever. Like, it wasn't even suspended. He just never fucking had one, ever, okay? He didn't have valid insurance, and the tabs were expired, okay? He wasn't pulled over, because this was the common theme that was going out there initially on April 12th, okay, when everybody was doing their stories on it. Oh, Daunte Wright was pulled over and shot by a racist cop because he had an air freshener in his rear view mirror. Well, that was like number 3 down on the list of reasons why he was pulled over. Mostly, he was made alert to Anthony Lucky, who was driving the patrol car at the time, because he was in a right-turning lane. Daunte Wright was driving the Buick, which he didn't own, wasn't registered in his name, and he didn't have a license to be driving to begin with. He was in a right-turning lane using the left signal, okay? So, kind of retarded, okay? So they were just going to follow him. They were going to run the plates and see if there was anything fucking going on, which is totally within their purview to do, which is another reason why you shouldn't be operating a vehicle that has expired fucking tags, and then they'd have you pulled over. So once they ran the license and realized that the tags were expired, okay, yeah, you can use the justification of seeing a little fucking dangly in the rear view mirror to pull him over as well, but he also had expired tags. And then once they approached the vehicle, which again, take it with a grain of salt, Officer Lucky, when he was up on the stand here earlier, from what I was listening to, he said that he could smell marijuana, and then he also seen just random leaves and whatever, just a residue around the cabin of the vehicle. So okay, cool. So you have reason to believe that this guy's operating the vehicle under the influence. So okay, you approach on those grounds. So again, a cop can smell pot, and it kind of leads you to believe just the same way. It's like, I can smell alcohol in your breath. Well, sir, I've never had a drink before in my life. What I would say if I ever find myself ran afoul of the police, because that is true on my behalf, but not for Daunte Wright, obviously. But then also, yeah, he was very receptive. Oh, he was very complimentary, and he was helping out the cops, answering every question that he possibly could. Doesn't detract from the fact that he had no right to be driving that vehicle. If we live in the standard that we do today, Eldridge took the jury through the events of the moment. Potter and her trainee officer, rookie officer Anthony Lucky, first stopped Wright for having an air freshener hanging in the rearview mirror and expired tags. Yeah, it sucks that you have to put that little disclaimer on the end of there. She told them that Wright had been forthcoming and helpful, answering all the questions. Wow, was she there? He asked and presented him as merely a scared kid. He's 20 years old. Scared kid, huh? Okay, who panicked on learning he was going to be arrested, which is exactly what you shouldn't be doing if you're going to be arrested. If you want to fight the police, if you think that it's an unjustified arrest, don't fight with them out on the street. Don't try to flee. Don't try to hop back in a vehicle that everybody and their mother knows that you shouldn't be driving, to just bang on that drum once again. And then hop in a piece of equipment that kills more people every year than literally everything else. Motor vehicle accidents account for more fatalities than smoking, than firearms, than knives. It's a literal fucking 2,000-pound bullet that you could just crash into somebody, which eventually you did at the end of this fucking altercation. And it's weird if you guys were following along too with Rittenhouse, because yeah, we could go through the rest of the stupid opening statements from the prosecutor, but I don't need to bore you any further. But she also made a note. Okay, Aaron Eldridge there, the prosecutor, made a note that Officer Potter used hollow point ammunition that day, which I don't think she picked out. It's standard issue for Brooklyn Center Police Department, that tore through Daunte's body. Oh, okay, cool. She had no say in what the ammunition would be, so, and again, she thought that she pulled the taser, but it's kind of funny. It has nothing to do with anything, and there's no correlation to be drawn here, but it's weird to think. It's like, okay, Binger from the Kyle Rittenhouse prosecution was banging on that Kyle was using full metal jacket ammunition, and oh, if he would have used hollow point ammunition, that would have stopped one of those rounds from traveling through Joseph Rosenbaum, and it wouldn't have endangered Richie McGinnis that day, and he wouldn't have had that second, I think, charge of just reckless endangerment and misuse of a firearm. But then you have the prosecution here saying, oh, the hollow point bullet just ripped through Daunte Wright's very innocent and very didn't do nothing body. Fuck off. There was, she said, no bringing him back. Yeah, he was shot, okay? Went through his lungs, went through his heart, and then went through his other lungs. So yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that takes you out, and then driving and then crashing your vehicle. Leaving it in a state like that, yeah, I would say that would probably fucking lead to things. Yeah, as you can see, yeah, vehicle was pulled over, okay, and again, you probably should have just, pulled off into the parking lot, which I know it was the middle of the day on a Sunday. You know what? Hey, you could have just pulled into the parking lot there, which is, always highly beneficial to your situation, especially if it's at night. If you get pulled over by the police, which I hope you don't, because it's just an annoying situation. But you pull into a well-lit situation, a well-lit area, you put the officer at ease that way, and then you don't make any kind of sudden shifty movements, and you'll find yourself in maybe a little bit more compassionate headspace from the officer. But yeah, anyways, regardless, that's not what he did. So I parked in between the two different driveways that were there. And then, yeah, hopped back in the vehicle while, nursing a pretty bad gunshot wound. And then eventually just crashing into somebody on Catherine, I forget the proper pronunciation, the mother, who was, it was a little bit tough to listen to, because she was up there describing, the final moments and having to relive the fact that she was talking on the phone and then FaceTiming with the corpse of her dead oldest son, which, goddamn, that has to be fairly traumatic. So that pretty much sucks. But yeah, she mentioned that I think it was Catherine Ave or something like that. But Yeah, we'll get into her statements here shortly, because we gotta get to the prosecution's opening statements as well, because I don't care the rest of what prosecutor Karen there has to say, who has I don't know, wig hair if I've ever seen it before. One final thing about the prosecution's opening statement. Oh, she should have known the difference between the two firearms. Yeah, okay, you take a look at the pictures that are there, okay? You got the gun at the bottom, obviously, you have the Glock there. And then you got the taser above it, and it's like, okay, yeah, they all look different. But again, in the heat of the moment, okay, you got the end of the Glock here and the end of the taser. They're both black, okay, obviously. And oh, there was a big weight discrepancy. The Glock, when it was loaded with 17 rounds of ammo, it was twice as heavy as the taser. 2 pounds as compared to 1 pound. Can you really tell the difference in the heat of the moment? Obviously, it's a little bit of a fucking rocky situation, but I'm sure that'll make the headlines. Officer doesn't know the difference between something that is twice as heavy as something that she thinks that she is using. Kind of fucking dim, but whatever. So yeah, Paul Eng, probably jumping in just slightly into his opening argument, which was very good, because he set the scene to begin with. He was just given the narrative of the situation, that this was a highly charged, highly fraught situation. And then, you know what, he introduced himself to the jury, because it's for some of those jurors that are up there, it's been about a week since they've been, you know what, acquainted with any of the members of the defense. And he went around the room and he told them exactly what to expect from their half of the presentation to the jury. And then he went back into the facts and told them exactly what they were going to be anticipating from their different experts that they were going to have up there, the different testimony that their witnesses were going to provide, and then also a little glimpse into what Kim Potter is going to have to say when she takes a stand as well. So here's what he jumping in at some point here. According to Eng, Potter made a calculated decision to tase Wright on seeing that her partner, Sergeant Michael Johnson, that's his name, okay, was dangling out of the car, trying to hold on to the gear shift to prevent Wright from driving away. In a starkly different presentation of his details, he said, what she is seeing is that the partner, Sergeant Johnson, is in the car. He's a tall individual. He's in the car restraining the gear shift so that Mr. Wright can't escape. Yeah, exactly. He's trying to get back into the vehicle, which for reasons that were already explained, could lead to a very, very dangerous situation. So he's trying to stop Wright from operating the vehicle that he shouldn't be operating to begin with. So he's dangling out of the vehicle, and every cop who goes through the training also knows that being beside, around a vehicle is probably not the best thing for your health. So she was trying to avoid that as well, and it's not like her vision was being obstructed by that, because he had Officer Lucky directly to her left trying to grab out Daunte Wright, who was for some reason able to get back into the vehicle. And then he had Johnson on the other side of the vehicle reaching in through there as well, the legs akimbo apparently. But regardless, back to this. And she knows that if Mr. Wright is not stopped, he's about to drive away with the police officer dangling from the car. And she knows, and she tells you this, that's when she says, taser, taser, taser. If she does nothing, Mr. Wright drives away with either substantially harms Sergeant Johnson or likely he kills him. Fair enough. Eng states, the facts will show you Mr. Wright can stop. All he has to do is stop and he'd be with us, but he goes. Yeah, exactly. His voice rising to shout, Eng said she can't let him leave because he's going to kill her partner. Fair enough. Yeah. That's in reference to Lucky hanging inside the vehicle, because she was training him at the time, and then Johnson, who responded to a call of, you know what, hey, we need to arrest somebody, so we're gonna need some backup. Is anybody in the area? Johnson, who was the sergeant on duty that day, came down and helped out with the arrest. And so she pulls the trigger, believing that it was a taser, for why else would she say it? Yeah, exactly. If she was trying to obfuscate from the fact that she just wanted to cap somebody, would she be so vociferous about saying, I'm going to tase ya, I'm going to tase ya, taser, 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 then pulls the trigger once? I don't know, man. That seems like a really, really, really calculated effort by somebody who is clearly not of the same capacity as the person who was on trial. She said, he said, she made a mistake. It was an accident. She's a human being, but she had to do it to prevent the death of a fellow officer. Again, just setting up the fact that this wasn't unreasonable force, even if you need to make the claim that pulling a firearm was unnecessary as well. So a high likelihood that somebody was going to die if she didn't make the move, but unfortunately it was the wrong move that she was anticipating. So again, there's a lot of doubt here, and there's reasonable cause to believe that there is reasonable doubt apparent, obviously. Ng said Potter was a mother of 4, whose career has been inspired by police officer visits she made to a school as a child. That, according to Ng, is that Potter was trying to do what she shouted, I'll tase ya. Yeah, exactly. Tase. De-escalate the situation. She was a part of the hostage negotiation team, and that, de-escalating the situation as what she has been doing for her 26-year police career, which I don't think you necessarily start at the hostage negotiation team, but you do you, okay? And then, then you have Daunte Wright's mother, first witness after lunch. I think they took lunch and then they started to call witnesses, and you had Daunte Wright's mother there, which, to be fair, that's a tough fucking spot to put her in, because she has to come in and relive what she sees as a murder of her son and has yet to be determined by the jury itself. So this is a very long, very detailed article, sorry. So if you wanted to go through, and if you didn't want to watch like the 4 hours of fucking opening statements this morning, that's fair, and that's fine, and feel free to just click through to this article and you can read the rest of it, because I'm skipping over like massive swaths of it and just trying to get through the highlights, at least as best as I can remember them. Katie Bryant, 43, was the first witness called to the state as they began their case in chief Wednesday afternoon. Wow, so she was only 23 when she had Daunte. Well, I guess maybe she might be a year older, so 22 or 23, but regardless, apparently she's still married to the guy that knocked her up, so congratulations for that. Emotional and frequently wiping away tears from her eyes as she recalled how she rushed to the scene of the incident after she recognized her dead son by the shoes, which were left uncovered by the white sheet which had been placed over his body. I still have scars on the inside of my cheeks because I thought it was a dream and that I would wake up, and I didn't wake up. Yeah, that really does suck, dude. Brian testified the jury was shown harrowing video of the distraught mother arriving at the scene. That one kind of sucked. And again, not for any like factual reasons, and it really didn't have a lot of, kind of relevance to the case, other than the fact that, you had a wailing mother in the most apoplectic state that you could possibly see an individual. Other than just kind of setting the mood of the situation, it really didn't play anywhere in there, and it's just kind of hard to watch. He sounded nervous. He sounded scared. He asked if he was in trouble. I said, no, you haven't done anything wrong. He sounded really nervous, but I reassured him that it would be okay. That speaking about Daunte Wright, and that's what she told him while he was on the phone with his mother, and that's what she told him, but it's like, no, clearly you had done plenty wrong for reasons of not being able to drive the vehicle legally. Bryant asked her son to hand the phone over to the police officer so she could explain that they had not yet transferred the insurance of the vehicle into his name, having gifted him a car just 2 weeks earlier. Fucking weird how that would never actually happen, because he didn't have a driver's license and therefore his name couldn't be transferred onto the insurance because he's not allowed to operate the vehicle. So lying. I had heard somebody saying hang up to the phone. I was panicked and I called back, and it seemed like 100 times, but it was like 4 or 5. And she cried a lot, and it was tough stuff. But in a stark contrast to the Kyle Rittenhouse case, okay, because I brought it up a little bit earlier, but to compare and contrast the defense in this case, Earl Gray, okay, the lead counsel for the defense, he walked up there and he was pointed, and he was sharp, and he asked the right questions from somebody who, if you go too hard on them in front of the jury, you're just going to come off like an asshole, and that's just going to taint the rest of the case. So you got to be cerebral in your approach. And Gray, he went up there and he just asked the right fucking questions to poke the right fucking holes in her testimony. Because, she's sympathetic. She doesn't add anything to the fucking case, okay? She was on the phone with him, and she said relatively benign things, at least because she's the only person to really attest to what was said on that call that day, so you got to take her at least at face value, because nobody can really corroborate it or tear it down at the same time, so she has some sort of relevance to it. And then, also just saying, oh, he was a good boy who didn't do nothing, and then just fucking emotionally break down. It's like, Can you really go too hard on her? No, you probably shouldn't. For me, I just want to see him tear her down, but he did it without raising his voice, without wasting anybody's time. I think he went about 15 minutes, and he just had a couple of questions for her. Potter's lawyer, Earl Grey, followed up. Yes, his name's literally Earl Grey. Followed up with a brief and surprisingly aggressive cross-examination. He didn't raise his voice. He was just very even keel. He just asked noted questions, didn't raise the emotion, didn't really lower the emotion, just kept it at the same level. And instead of having a re-examination, from the prosecution, they just let the most emotion-driven witness that they possibly could be calling, okay? They just let her walk off the stand, just looking disgraced, really. He asked Bryant if she knew if her son did not have a driver's license and that the car was not insured. She admitted that she did. Yep, knowing that he didn't have a driver's license, knowing that the car was not insured, knowing that it was not in his name. So why, okay, would she also give him $50 to go wash the vehicle and then to also fuel it up if he's not allowed to be driving it? He asked if she was aware if there was a warrant out for him and his marijuana use. She said she was not, but also that in her closing remarks, okay, from the prosecutions, from the examination side of things, she also said that it's a mother's responsibility to take care and know of your child. And I guess, yeah, no, okay. Obviously, it's all very heartwarming and touching stuff, and it's all very necessary to establish the character of Daunte Wright, obviously. But if you're supposed to be taking care of your kid, why are you letting them commit a crime regularly? Doesn't make a lot of sense. And he made sure to bring up that bring up before the jury the fact that the family had considered bringing a civil lawsuit under the guidance of three lawyers. Very, very interesting. Okay, yeah, she was grieving that day, and then the next day showed up with a team of three lawyers, including one with high-profile attorney and race hustler extraordinaire Benjamin Crump's law firm, who, if you just forgive me for a second, we're going to go over his arrest warrant that was there. Ben Crump being outside race hustling, because that's what this dude fucking does. He was also the civil attorney for the family of George Floyd, I think Trayvon Martin, Freddie Gray, pretty much any high-profile dead black kid. Ben Crump is there. He's literally chasing ambulances as we speak. He's the one there in the fedora, pretending to, I don't know, be very, very emotional about the situation. But he's the race component of this. So I know this video is getting a little bit long in the tooth, but I want to properly flesh out the warrant for his arrest. And the fact of the matter is they pulled him over. The officers pulled him over for very legitimate reasons. Daunte Wright had a warrant out for his arrest after missing a court hearing on a misdemeanor firearms charge at the time of his death, according to court records. Police officers learned of the warrant after pulling 20-year-old over for an expired license plate in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, on April 11th. And this is mostly, okay, and we'll probably follow up with the cross-examination of Anthony Lucky, okay, the officer who was there that day. We'll probably follow that up tomorrow or the next time that we do a recap of the day's events once everything's all said and done, but mostly this is what he was bringing to the court, at least what I could glean from the time, because he mostly just went back into his old fucking history about things and wasn't necessarily exciting or anything, but yeah, it's not complete in its totality, at least from what I listened to. DailyMail.com revealed that Wright was also due to face trial on a separate charge of attempted aggravated robbery, with a possible maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, but he was a good boy who didn't do nothing, who just had young child, after allegedly holding up a woman at gunpoint in 2019. Okay, so the cops run his plates, okay, they run his name, they run his birthday, and they find out this is Daunte Wright, okay, he has an outstanding warrant for missing a court hearing on a misdemeanor firearms charge, and that there's also another warrant for a violent crime that he committed, and then also has a restraining order against the woman, okay, who was victimized in this crime. Charging papers say Wright and a second man, Emma J. Driver, went to the home shared by two women in Osseo, Minnesota to party in December of 2019. At the time, Wright was 19 and Driver was 18. The woman asked them to leave around 2:30 a.m. on December 1st. Fair enough, it's getting pretty late in the evening. But they said they didn't have a ride, and the woman, who was not identified in the court documents and were unlikely to really figure out who that is because she also has a restraining order against him, which I don't know if it can ever be acted upon now, unless she goes within 250 feet of a cemetery, allowed them to sleep on the floor. In the morning, one of the women went back to went to the bank to get her $820 rent money, which she gave to the other woman, and then left for work. As Wright driver and the second woman were leaving, Wright allegedly tried to hold up the woman. Awesome. Good kid. The three of them were walking to the door to exit the apartment, and defendant Wright turned around and blocked the door, preventing victim from leaving, says the report, written by Osseo police officer Shane Mickelson. Defendant Wright then pulled a black handgun in silver trim out of either his right waistband or his right coat pocket. Well, did he cross-draw that? Did he mistake it for a taser? I don't know. Did the report reveal that? And pointed it at the victim and demanded the rent money. Why, is he the landlord? Wow. Victim said, "Are you serious?" Defendant Wright replied, "Give me the fucking money. I know you have it." The woman again asked him if he was serious. Wright said he had to reply, "I'm not playing around. I got a kid to feed, or a kid on the way." I'm not entirely sure. Mickelson, a report said that the $820 cash was tucked in the victim's bra. Okay, if you went to an ATM, that means you would have got 20s, and that's a big fucking lump of cash to just have hiding under your titty. Just saying. Victim's bra, and defendant Wright placed his hand around the victim's neck and choked her while trying to pull the cash from under her bra. So is that also sexual assault too? I don't know. Victim was able to get loose from defendant Wright and started to kneel down and scream. What, was she going to suck his dick to try to get the money back? After more yelling, Wright allegedly told the woman that he was going to shoot her unless he got the money. "Give me the money and we'll leave," he allegedly said. "Give me the money and we'll go." A redundant kid at best. Mickelson added, defendant Wright then tried to choke a victim the second time and tried to take her money. Defendant driver was telling her to give defendant Wright the money. Defendant driver then said, "Let's go," and the two defendants left and got into a white Cadillac and left the scene. Maybe it was a white Buick. I don't know if we got the proper model of or make of the vehicle, rather. Afterwards, the victim found the cash was still in her bra. So what, he just wanted to cop a feel? Fucking weirdo. You got a kid at home and a baby mama to help support, maybe. Mickelson said the woman identified both Wright and driver through photo lineups. Wright's bail was originally set at $100,000. With orders that he should not contact the victim or any witnesses, refrain from drugs and alcohol. Fuck, that whole pot smell that was in the vehicle. Interesting. And alcohol, and not have any weapons. And he was out, and he missed court hearing for a misdemeanor firearms charge. A little bit fucking weird here. A bond bailsman, paid $40,000 for his release. But he was arrested in Minneapolis in July last year on charges that he was in possession of a firearm without a permit. Okay, so Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, all of these places with really top-notch legal systems. He was also in violation of his bail conditions for the attempted robbery arrest, which prohibited him from possessing a firearm. He had not kept in touch with the probation officer, court papers show. So this dude, yeah, he was a good kid. He was just a good boy who just wanted to go out there, and he wanted to wash his vehicle that day and fill up the car and fuck whatever skank he was driving around with. Just a lazy Sunday that was interrupted by that racist Kim Potter. It's going to be an interesting trial, and I'm going to be following along just as closely as I did with Kyle Rittenhouse, and it's probably not going to get the same attention that Rittenhouse did, but this one's pretty important too. And I'm not one of those hardline blue lives matter, all cops can never do fucking wrong, but in this situation, cops should have at least a little bit of leeway to fucking prevent somebody from fleeing the scene, fleeing arrest, knowing that they have a multitude of charges on record and they're a violent individual and they are likely to commit fucking crimes again, because as you can see, this dude went from choking and grabbing some titties to try to fucking rob somebody to illegally possessing a firearm, which I guess he probably was at the same time, and then just trying to couch it in the fact that I have a young kid, so I need to hold up fucking hood rats for $820. Like, what the fuck? To be fair, I don't know who this woman is anyways, so nobody's gonna know anyways, and she's never gonna find out anyways, so we'll follow along on this one because it's the highest profile trial that's at least being video televised. I don't know if it's on TV. It's at least on YouTube, and it's it's going to be interesting, and hopefully it's done shortly, because there's only so much I can take from the prosecution and from the judge. The defense, though, they should be defending everybody, because they're fucking great. But with that said, guys, sorry for the length of this. Actually, I'm not sorry for the length. I love fucking doing long videos and just rambling, and like it or not, and if you're sticking around this long, you probably enjoy it too. And if you haven't, well, you probably already pressed fucking thumbs down, because there's a black guy in the thumbnail, and you just normally do that anyway, so go fuck your mother. With that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.